I was at the end of my driving period and had already passed the point where my body tries to warn me. Cold coffee in the cup holder, my eyes burning, the tachograph clock reminding me that I had to stop soon, or I would exceed the limit. The problem is that, on that stretch of road, stopping wasn't resting. It was exposure. You choose between the fine and the risk, and a tired mind almost always chooses wrong. That highway had no lighting, only reflective strips and, every now and then, a green sign that seemed to appear out of nowhere and disappear just as quickly. To the right, the desert was a bottomless pit. To the left, nothing but air. The truck's headlights were my entire world, and anything outside of them seemed not to exist. That's why the sedan with its doors open looked like a scene from my own movie. It wasn't just strange, it was placed there to be seen. I thought of a flat tire, an electrical failure, someone who had lost their sense of distance. I also thought of the stories you hear in impound lots, stories that begin with a simple sentence and end with someone disappearing. I tried to laugh at myself, but my throat wouldn't obey. I was 40 miles from any town when I saw the first thing that didn't fit the night. The state highway cut through the West Texas desert, and I was driving my Freightliner, carrying a load of appliances to a warehouse near Lubbock. It was 1:17 a.m., no cell phone signal, radio only static, and the kind of wind that makes the truck feel like a boat. On the right shoulder of the road, near an unnamed exit, there was an old sedan with its doors open and interior lights on. Next to it, a woman stood with her back to the camera, wearing an oversized light-colored coat, her dark hair covering half her face. She raised an arm in a short, unhurried gesture. It didn't seem like desperation. It seemed like an invitation. I reflexively slowed down and opened the window slightly. As I passed, I caught a glimpse of her profile for a second. Her skin was too pale, her eyes wide open, her expression neutral as if she were rehearsing. I kept going. I didn't stop. 5 minutes later, I found a pickup truck across my left shoulder, hood open, hazard lights flashing. A man was waving with both arms, genuinely desperate. I pulled over further ahead, let the engine idle, and got out with my flashlight. He stopped about 2 meters from me, trembling. He showed me his dead cell phone. He pointed behind him, into the darkness. I only caught bits of what he was saying because of the wind, but I understood enough. The woman was bait. There were men hiding, waiting for whoever stopped. I looked at the open hood of the pickup truck and felt a chill worse than the cold. The engine was too clean, no smoke, no smell of oil. Seen. Even so, the man showed me his bruised wrist, marked by fingers. This wasn't acting. He had been beaten to stay there. I quickly returned to the cabin and locked the doors. He stayed outside near the truck, looking back as if expecting someone to emerge from the desert. And that's exactly what happened. When I saw the stains on her hands, my mind tried to find an innocent explanation. Motor oil, damp dirt, anything. But the stains weren't just on her fingers, they were on her wrists, as if she had washed her hands in a hurry and still hadn't managed to remove them. And her light-colored coat had a darkened band of dust, as if she had walked on her knees somewhere. She didn't scream. She didn't run. She didn't make the desperate gesture of someone abandoned. She simply repeated the signal patiently, as if she knew that the road and her conscience would do the rest. The kind of calm you see in someone who has done the same thing many times. The moment I accelerated, I felt the truck take a while to respond. That split second was enough for me to imagine a door being pulled open, a rock being thrown, a gunshot. Nothing happened, but I didn't have the courage to look around. I just kept going, gripping the steering wheel too tightly until my hands ached. The woman appeared on the shoulder of the road, walking slowly, her light-colored coat billowing. When she came into the beam of my headlights, I saw dark stains on her hands, like oil or dried blood. She stopped and raised her palm, a gesture of calm. Then she pointed at me and behind her, insistently, as if she wanted me to turn back. At the edge of the lighthouse, shadows shifted. 2, maybe 3. A fleeting metallic glint. I didn't negotiate. I floored it and drove off with the truck pulling heavily, the trailer shaking on the shoulder. In the rearview mirror, I saw the men suddenly appear and head towards the pickup truck. I saw the man run inside, but I saw nothing more than darkness and dust. The guilt came soon after, heavy, as if the burden had risen to my throat. I searched for a signal. Nothing. Radio. Nothing. I needed to warn someone. 20 minutes later, I found an empty rest area with an old payphone. It still worked. I called 911 and gave an approximate location, the unnamed exit, the pickup truck with its hood open, the woman in the light-colored coat, the men hiding. The operator made me repeat distances and license plates, and I did my best. When I hung up, I didn't feel safe. I just felt less useless. I got back on the highway to get out of that lane as quickly as possible. And then I saw the headlights behind me. A sedan pulled up behind me, headlights on high beam with no intention of overtaking. I changed lanes to give it space. It changed lanes too. I accelerated. It accelerated. I braked lightly. It kept its distance like a trained shadow. When he pulled slightly to the left, I saw the driver, a man in a cap, stiff jaw, looking at me and not at the road. In the passenger seat, a clear, motionless figure. A coat. Dark hair. It was her. My stomach sank. The message was simple. I had escaped the first act, but I was still in the script. The sedan flashed its headlights 3 times, paused, then 3 more, as if it were a code to make me stop. The sedan behind me seemed to know my reactions. When I maintained a constant speed, it closed in. When I tried to gain distance, it accelerated. When I thought about pulling over to let it pass, it blocked the idea by staying in the same position, as if it wanted to trap me in that rhythm. It was a simple game to tire me out, to confuse me, to push me into a quick decision. I also noticed something else. There were no other cars. None. If I stopped, there would be no witnesses, no distant honking, no one to record it. I was a lone dot on a dark line, and the way they were positioned, it wasn't to steal cargo and drive away. It was to control the situation. When I turned toward the dirt pull-off, dust covered the windshield, and for a second, I lost my vision. I only felt the truck sway and the trailer trying to push me out. If I made a mistake, I'd roll over. And yet that choice seemed better than slowing down on the road with the sedan right behind me. I kept the truck steady and searched, in the dark, for the first illuminated thing that wasn't a lost exit. The next sign promised a low overpass, and after that, a maintenance area. I didn't want to get out anywhere, but I also wasn't going to drive forever with that car stuck to the road. When the overpass arrived, I accelerated to avoid losing momentum, and, just past the shadow of the concrete, I steered the truck into a dirt service bay, one of those with a chain and padlock. The dust exploded, the cab shook, but I stopped with the front facing the highway, engine running, ready to go back. The sedan drove straight past and braked further ahead. It reversed. It stopped at the edge. The doors opened. 2 men got out. The woman got out last, slowly, as if she wanted to be seen. One of them went to the chain and opened it easily. That's when I understood the worst. This wasn't improvised. They knew exactly where I would go. They were pushing me towards that earthen opening. One of the men held up a dark object in his hand. I didn't need to imagine it. I crouched down in the cabin, grabbed the radio microphone purely on instinct, and turned the knob one more time, out of stubbornness. And the radio hissed. A distant voice pierced the static, short, like someone sweeping a canal. I pressed the microphone and spoke my coordinates as best I could, describing the overpass, the recess with the open current, the sedan behind. I didn't ask for heroism. I asked for light. The reaction was immediate. Outside, the woman tilted her head, irritated, like someone who had lost control of the theater. The man in the cap looked at the highway. The 2 hurried as if time had run out. On the horizon, tall, wide truck headlights appeared. One, then another, as if someone had warned a group. The 3 ran to the sedan and disappeared into the night, raising dust and leaving the chain dangling. When the trucks arrived, 2 drivers got out with flashlights and stayed with me until the sirens came on. The police asked questions, took notes, looked at the tire tracks and the open chain. One of the officers, looking like he'd heard this before, spoke of recent disappearances in that corridor. Always the same pattern. A woman, an open car, a staged incident. I asked about the man in the pickup truck. They didn't answer right away. 2 days later, already in Lubbock, A county detective called me. He said they found the pickup truck at the indicated location, hood open, hazard lights still working. There were signs of a struggle in the dirt. Nothing of the man. He asked me to describe the woman. I tried, but that was precisely what bothered me. She was ordinary, a face you forget, a coat that could be any coat, a way of waving that looks like a plea for help, but it's just the handle pulling you out of the cabin. I went back on the road the following week because that's how life works. You deliver the cargo and pretend not to think about what's left on the side of the road. But ever since that night, every time I see someone stopped in the dark, I get a taste of metal in my mouth, and I think about the detail that haunts me the most. When I saw the light-colored coat on the passenger seat, she wasn't looking at me. She was looking straight ahead, calm, as if she already knew that another truck driver, on another night, would believe they were doing the right thing. Since then, I've changed my habits. I only stop in crowded yards with cameras, lights, and people walking by. I don't lower my window for strangers on the shoulder. I write down the license plate, the time, and mark it in my notebook as if it were still possible to go back in time and correct it. Even so, sometimes in the reflection of the side mirror, I think I see a light-colored coat standing on the white line, motionless, waiting. And the worst part is this. My tired brain always wants to believe it's just someone asking for help. I know it's fear playing with shadows, but I also know that that woman seemed made to be forgotten. If I forget, she wins. So I remember even when it hurts. And I keep going because stopping in the wrong place could be the last delivery. Not every request is real, you know. If you're enjoying these chilling stories, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any more terrifying tales to come. Now, get ready for another journey down dark and mysterious roads. I was a little over 150 miles from Cheyenne when the clock on the dashboard read 2:17 a.m. and I-80 turned into a tunnel of wind and asphalt. Trailer sealed, load of appliances, tight deadline. I had driven that stretch so many times that I recognized the normal by the silence. And that night the silence was wrong. There were no other trucks. Not a single pair of red lights on the horizon. No radio crackling on Channel 19. Just the engine pulling steadily and the wind pounding against the cargo bed like a fingernail on metal. I'd left a truck stop near Laramie with bad coffee and a heavy head, but not enough to make the classic mistake of driving on autopilot. I always do the same ritual when I pull into a truck in the middle of the night like that. I check the security seal, close the side curtains so I don't become a shop window, leave the flashlight and cell phone in the same place, and keep the spare key in my pocket, not in the cab. It's a habit, but habits save lives. The first thing that made me hold my breath was a dark sedan on the shoulder of the road, its hazard lights flashing slowly, and the driver's door open towards the road. A broken-down car doesn't leave its door open like that. Either it's carelessness on the part of someone in a panic or it's a trap. When I saw the sedan, I also noticed a detail that almost no one notices. There was no dirt kicked up behind it, no new dust on the shoulder of the road. It looked like the car had been there for a short time, positioned, not abandoned. And when the van pulled up alongside, I saw that it didn't sway like someone distracted. It was firm, steady, as if the driver had the hands of someone who practices. When my headlights swept across the shoulder of the road, I saw her. A woman, light coat, hair tied back, standing near the white line, motionless. She didn't wave, didn't run, didn't ask. She just stared at the booth as if she were checking a license plate. I drove straight past. I kept the truck in the center of the lane and felt the back of my neck go cold the instant the light hit her face. There was no fear there. There was calm. A trained calm of someone who expects the other person to react. 2 minutes later, a headlight appeared in the rearview mirror and grew larger quickly. It was a white van, no logo, headlights too bright. It stuck to my rear as if it were measuring the speed of the trailer. I was going 62 mph. The van stayed close. I shifted slightly, accelerated a little, slowed down a bit. It followed like a shadow. I tried to start a conversation on the radio just to test it. No response. The device clicked and died, as if someone had cut the frequency. I knew there were bad parts, but this seemed too perfect a fit to be a coincidence. Right behind the van, another vehicle appeared. A dark pickup truck, tinted windows, low beams. They lined up as if rehearsing. The van in front, the pickup truck on the left side, and a third car emerging from behind. I sensed the pattern before understanding the plan. They were going to box me in. The van deliberately slowed down. I lightly touched the brake to turn on the taillight. It slowed down even more. The pickup pulled alongside, blocking my escape route. The trailer gained weight, and for the first time that night I was certain this wasn't speeding. It was an operation. The pickup truck alongside me tried something that made me angry and scared at the same time. It swerved slightly inward just to make me react. I didn't react. I held my line and let the trailer take the space it deserved. If I turned the steering wheel, I'd be in the headlines. That's exactly what they wanted. A scare, a sudden correction, a pretext to stop and help. For a few seconds, the third car I had seen behind me turned off its headlights. I saw darkness where there should have been light and understood that someone was trying to approach through my blind spot. The idea was simple. A bump on the trailer, a minor collision, and I would be forced to pull over to check for damage. On an empty road, forced becomes a sentence. I kept the vehicle steady, as if I were holding the truck by the neck. When I overtook the van to try and reach safety, I felt the kind of relief that lasts less than a blink. They weren't after me out of irritation. They were after me because I had resisted. And in that logic, resisting becomes a challenge. I picked up the phone and tried 911. No signal. I tried again. Nothing. The lack of bars in the corner of the screen gave me a metallic taste in my mouth, as if my body already knew the ending and didn't want to tell my brain. I needed light, a camera, people, a place with tall poles and room to maneuver. I remembered that a few kilometers ahead, there was a weighing station. Even if it was closed, the yard would have lighting and, with luck, some cameras. The sign appeared. Weigh station 1 mile. The van braked again, trying to hold me back in the lane. I understood that if I stayed stuck behind it, at some point they would force me to a complete stop. I did what a truck driver does when he needs to make a quick decision. I firmly moved into the left lane and passed the van without hesitation. For a second, I saw the inside of the car. A man in a baseball cap at the wheel, a blank expression. In the passenger seat, a hooded silhouette. And on someone's lap, a short metallic glint reflecting the light from my headlights. It didn't look like a cell phone. A van pulled up behind me, tailgating me again. The pickup truck did the same. They weren't trying to scare me. They were trying to guide me. I entered the weighing area without slowing down too much. The courtyard was lit by tall lampposts, but the building had dark windows. Everything seemed deserted. And yet that was the best desert I had because every movement was exposed there. I pulled off a nasty simple maneuver. I parked the truck sideways, blocking both the entrance and exit. Trailer as a wall. Parking brake engaged. I didn't get out. I didn't open the door. I just stayed inside the cab, eyes in the mirrors. The van pulled in and stopped about 20 meters away. The pickup truck stopped alongside. For a few seconds, nobody got out. The tension rose like a fever. The van's side door opened slowly. 2 men got out. Gloves, the posture of someone who didn't want to be recognized. One was carrying something long and heavy, which I initially thought was a weapon before I was sure. The other had a flashlight strapped to his chest, pointed downwards. And then I saw the woman from the side of the road. She got out from beside the pickup truck as if she'd always belonged to that group. The same light coat. The same hair tied back. The same calm demeanor. She looked at my truck as if confirming an address. At that moment, my head clicked into place what I didn't want to admit. The woman was the bait. The sedan with the open door was the setting. The van and the pickup truck were the trap. And the weigh station, if empty, would be the perfect place to get me out of the cab without witnesses. I activated the air horn and held it down. The sound exploded in the courtyard, echoing off the building and the metal of the signs. At the same time, I turned on my high beams, hazard lights, and alarm. I needed to transform that space into noise and light, because criminals like silence. The men hesitated for a second. The woman did not. She raised her arm and pointed to the cabin, as if giving an order. One of them walked toward my driver's side, using the trailer as cover. The other circled around to the passenger side. I released the parking brake just enough to keep the truck alive and engaged drive, foot firmly on the brake. I couldn't let the engine stall. The man on the driver's side pointed his flashlight directly at my face. The light blinded me for a moment, and I turned my head, looking at the reflection in the window. I saw the other man approaching from the right. His objective was clear: to get me out of the cabin. That's when a light went on in the weighing station building. A door opened. A figure appeared, small in the distance, but real. Someone had heard the horn. Someone had seen the lights. The figure stood still and held up a telephone. The woman's composure finally cracked. She made a short gesture, and the two men stepped back. But before they fully returned, the man closest to me pointed what he was holding at the front tire of my truck. I understood immediately. If he blew the tire, I would be stuck there, unstable, trapped. I didn't wait for the next move. I released the parking brake completely and accelerated, pulling the steering wheel to get out of that tight spot at an angle that only made sense to someone who had already maneuvered heavily in a tight yard. The truck shook, the trailer scraped the curb, and I heard a crack that could have been a gunshot or metal hitting metal. I only felt the mass react. The van tried to block my exit, but it was poorly positioned. I passed within a few feet of it and saw the van's hood sway from the air displacement of my trailer. The pickup honked, and a flash came from the side, but I was already leaving. I pulled out of the yard and back onto the highway, keeping the truck steady and making as much light and noise as I could. Flashing high beams, intermittent horn blaring, hazard lights on. I needed any oncoming car to realize something was wrong. A few minutes later, the cell phone signal returned. My phone beeped as if waking up. I called 911 and described the white van with no logo, the dark pickup truck, the woman in the light coat, and the approximate location. I didn't stop. I drove to the next open gas station with lights in movement. The van and the pickup truck followed me for a while longer and then disappeared. It wasn't a desperate escape. It was a decision. They were retreating because there were witnesses, because there was a recorded call, because there was a chance of a camera. When I finally pulled over to the gas station parking lot, I stood there for a few seconds, unable to let go of the steering wheel. Only then did I realize that my hands were really shaking, as if I had been cold. The police car arrived later, and I told them everything without embellishing a single detail. The officer looked at me with a weariness that was no surprise. He said there had been reports of breakdowns and assistance needed in empty stretches of road, and that some truck drivers had lost their cargo. One hadn't returned home. He didn't mention the name, but the silence completed the story. I slept in the gas station's yard with the door locked, the engine off, and the feeling that there was still a white headlight in my mirror. And since that night, every time I see a car stopped on the side of the road with the door open, I don't see someone needing help. I see a test. Because I learned the hard way. Sometimes, danger on the road doesn't chase you. It stands still, waiting for you to choose to stop. The rest stop sign blinked like a tired eye in the middle of nowhere. Lone Star Travel Plaza. But the A was faded, and the rest trembled in the hot Texas wind. It was 2:13 in the morning. I-10 had already become a soulless black line, and I was hauling 40,000 pounds of cargo with my Freightliner. I'd been through too much to believe in gut feelings. But that night, my body spoke first. The radio was silent. Not silent because there was no signal. Silent as if someone had turned off the sound of the world. The yard had 4 diesel pumps, 2 of them out, an old pickup truck parked near the trash can, and a silver sedan sitting crooked, as if it had been abandoned there in a panic. The gas station lights didn't reach the back of the parking lot. Places like this usually have 2 things: dogs and activity. There was neither. My name is Wade Collins, 20 years on the road. I've learned 2 rules. Don't stop where there are no people and never trust a place that almost works. But I was running out of time. My mouth was dry and my stomach was burning from stale coffee. I needed to stop. I pulled into a parking spot near the entrance, left the engine running and the locks engaged. Still inside the cab, I counted shadows. Nothing moved. Until a man appeared from the side of the store. emerging from the darkness as if he had been there the whole time. Thin, baseball cap, gray t-shirt, hands in his pockets. He didn't come towards me, but he didn't move away either. He just looked, sizing things up. I went downstairs with a small blade in my leg pocket. It's not a weapon. It's a tool. But tools can also cut. On the door, I saw tape stuck to the glass. Bathroom out of service. Another note inside. Cameras down. Sorry. I laughed humorlessly. Inside, the shelves were half empty and the music was soft and distant. Behind the counter, a woman in her 50s with her hair tied back and deep dark circles under her eyes was working at the cash register without looking at me. "Diesel?" she asked, as if I were part of the wall. "Just coffee and the bathroom." She pointed with her chin to the enormous key hanging on a block of wood that read restroom. "It's right there, but I don't recommend it." This wasn't a complaint about dirt. It was a warning. "And the cameras?" I asked. She glanced at me quickly and looked away. "The storm knocked it down, that's too quick an answer." I grabbed my coffee and went to the back hallway. The fluorescent light flickered, buzzing loudly. 2 doors. Men and women. The men's door had kick marks near the doorknob. I opened it slowly. The bathroom was almost dark, only a red emergency light casting a shadow over everything, like raw meat. The smell hit me. Ammonia, metal, and something sweet, rotten. On the floor, dried blood. A thin trail that disappeared behind the partition of the last stall. My first instinct was to leave and pretend I'd never been in there. But near the trash can there was a cheap earring with a small blue stone. Recent. And then came the sound. 3 faint knocks from the last stall. I froze. More urgent beats. A female voice muffled, trying not to cry. "Hey, please, don't go away." My skin crawled. "Who's there?" I asked quietly. I'm trapped. They'll be back. Please." They. Plural. It filled the bathroom like smoke. I pulled out my phone, no signal, not a single bar, just a useless glow in my hand. "Listen," I said, choosing my words carefully. "I'm going out and calling the police. Stay here." "No," she almost choked. "Don't talk to the cashier. She knows. She rats people out." I felt my heart pounding in my neck. "What's going on here?" The voice dropped, hurried. "They target anyone who stops alone. Truck drivers, travelers. They sell them. I saw people going in and not coming out." I backed up to the door. "I'm no hero. I just want to get home in one piece. But I also can't ignore a person locked inside asking for help." I left the bathroom, closed the door, and walked back, trying to appear calm. The cashier was watching me as if she already knew. "The bathroom is a mess," I said, forcing myself to act normal. She wiped down a counter that was already clean, and then the doorbell rang. A tall man with broad shoulders, a plaid shirt, and a short beard entered. Behind him were 2 more. One of them was the one with the hat. The other had a scar on his chin. The 3 of them looked directly at me as if I had a label on me. The bearded man smiled. "Hot night, huh, buddy?" I didn't respond with humor. "Just grabbing coffee." He grabbed a bottle of water, didn't pay, and the woman said nothing. The one with the scar stayed near the bathroom hallway, like a guard. The one with the hat positioned himself near the door, blocking half the exit without appearing to be blocking it. The bearded man took another sip of water. "Is that truck out there yours?" "Yes." "What are you taking?" "Warehouse load." He laughed briefly, and the smile faded quickly. "You didn't see anything strange back there, did you?" The question came lightly, but it had a sharp edge. They were checking how much I had seen. I lied. "Just dirt." He nodded as if making a decision. "Good. Because curious people are a lot of work." I turned to leave. The one with the hat opened the door for me with feigned politeness, but stayed glued to my side. The bearded one followed behind. The one with the scar didn't take his eyes off the hallway. Outside, the wind was hot, smelling of diesel and dust. I went straight to the truck without running. Running is admitting fear. As I climbed the cabin ladder, the bearded man appeared beside me too quickly. "Open up, buddy. I just want to talk." I went in and locked it. He banged on the door with his fist, harder. Are you listening to me? I put it in reverse. The truck lurched. You're going to hurt yourself because of curiosity, he said, now without a smile. Through the mirror, I saw the hallway door open. The cashier was pulling someone by the arm. A girl, her dirty hair tied in a ponytail, her face swollen. She stumbled, trying to free herself. When she saw me in the booth, her eyes widened and she shook her head in despair. She wasn't asking for help. She was telling me to run away. And that's what made me make the worst choice and the best choice at the same time. I floored it. The bearded man jumped back and pulled something metallic from his waist. I saw the glint. I turned the steering wheel and steered the truck toward the yard exit. The silver sedan turned on its headlights and came up behind me. The old pickup truck did too. I pulled out onto the highway, speeding, the trailer swaying, and they stuck to me like ticks. The sedan came with its high beams flashing, trying to blind me. The pickup truck tried to rear-end me. The road was straight and empty, no traffic lights, no chance. And then, amidst the static, the radio burst forth with a weak, trembling female voice. Wade, don't stop. Please. My blood ran cold. The radio was off, and I hadn't told anyone my name. How do you know my name? I growled, more to myself than to her. Receipt, the voice cried. They took your receipt. I'm in the sedan. In the trunk. I took their radio. Please. I felt a rage so intense it almost extinguished the fear. They were writing down names. They were collecting people. A sign appeared ahead. Rest Area 1 MI. Distant lights. A place where there might be someone. I signaled and pulled the truck toward the entrance. The sedan cut through the inside and stopped right in front of me, blocking the exit. The pickup truck came from behind and stopped, blocking the exit. They cornered me inside the rest area like someone closing a gate. The bearded man got out of the sedan with the gun in his hand, now without his mask. Get down, he shouted. Now. I looked at the only witnesses, a couple inside a parked minivan. They were frozen, locked in, eyes wide, pretending not to see. Pure cowardice. The bearded man glanced at them with his gun and they cowered even further. I had seconds. I held the truck's horn. A roar of compressed air tore through the early morning. It wasn't a cry for help. It was an alarm. It was meant for everyone to hear, even if no one wanted to see. While the horn was blaring, I put the truck in gear. The bearded man understood too late. I swerved the truck forward and hit the sedan. The impact bent metal like paper. The sedan was pushed sideways and hit the concrete barrier with a sharp crack. The horn was still blaring nonstop. Gunshots rang out. One shot a star against my windshield. Another went through the door and ripped the upholstery, inches from my leg. I didn't stop. When the sedan became stuck against the guardrail, I jumped out of the cab on the passenger side and ran close to the trailer, using the truck as a shield. The bearded man was yelling and shooting, but now there was too much metal in his way. I reached the dented trunk. The lid was warped. I stuck my fingers in the gap and pulled hard. The metal groaned and gave way. Inside, the girl was huddled together, her hands tied, her eyes wide, breathing as if she couldn't get enough air. I ripped the tape from her wrists with the blade, quickly, trembling. Come here, I said. Now. She stumbled out, staggering, and that's when I saw the worst part. The cashier wasn't in the store. She was there near the pickup truck, holding a small revolver firmly in her hand. She wasn't trembling. She didn't look like a hostage. She looked like the owner. She looked at the girl, then at me, as if assessing the damage. You could have just left, truck driver, she said curtly. The bearded man started coming towards us, furious, blood on his face from some cut. He raised his weapon again. Before I could think, the girl grabbed the gun that the cashier had left for a second on the hood of the truck, distracted by the chaos. It was a quick, desperate movement from someone who had tried to escape before. 2 shots. One hit the bearded man in the chest. He fell as if someone had cut off his legs. The other grabbed the cashier's wife by the shoulder. She screamed and fell to her knees, but still tried to raise the gun with her good hand. I pushed the girl behind the trailer. Get down, I yelled. The minivan finally sped off, tires screeching, driving away without looking back. Not to get help, to disappear. I ran back to the phone booth, grabbed my phone, and miraculously, a dial tone appeared. 1. It was enough to dial. 911, what's the emergency? My voice came out hoarse. Attempted murder, kidnapping, rest area on I-10, send everyone away. When the siren appeared in the distance, I was already sitting on the cabin step, my arm around the girl, feeling her tremors hit my body like a fever. She looked at me and whispered, her mouth dry. They have a list. A list of what? I asked. Names, signs, routes. She swallowed hard. And you? You were on it even before it stopped. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with a Texas dawn, because that night, I understood the most brutal thing about the road. The danger isn't just parking in the wrong place, it's like thinking that nobody is waiting for you.